I am in full-blown menopause. Okay, there, I said it. I want to do this with you guys. I want to offer as much information as I can find. I want to share what I'm dealing with. You can probably hear the air conditioning in the back, which I usually turn off during these, but I can't now because the hot flashes are happening without warning, and I just can't deal. So I'm guessing that a bunch of you see yourself in me at this moment. The hardest thing for me has been that no matter who you ask, there's not a one-size answer for anybody. So I'm not promising that in this episode, but I am promising that there are so many options. My next guest is Dr. Sheryl Ross. Sheryl Ross is known as the gynecologist to the stars. Dr. Ross has so many answers to so many of the questions that we all have. And what Sheryl says to focus on is your quality of life. And let that be the guiding factor for your decision making in quelling some of these symptoms from menopause. Here we go. I hope you learned something and that you feel less alone after you hear my conversation with Dr. Ross.
Hey baby, it's time for the NIKKI ALPERT podcast. Come on, pull up a chair. We gonna have some fun.
Dr. Sheryl Ross. Hi, Sheryl.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so thrilled that I just reached out to you blindly and you agreed to talk to me. Dr. Sheryl is a renowned OBGYN. She is known as the Doctor to the Stars. She's the author of 2 best-selling books, She-ology and The Vagina Revolution, the She-quel to She-ology. She's a co-host of a show called Lady Parts with Sarah Hyland, and it's on the Ellen DeGeneres Digital Ventures Network. And it has just been nominated for a Critics' Choice Award. I mean, that's incredible. How exciting is that?
I know, amazing. It was very surreal. Very, very proud of that show.
Yeah, because you're bringing these kinds of conversations to women that for some reason in 2021 isn't happening enough, which is why I've asked you to come today. But I'm not done. You've won nearly every single award for Top Doctor, Super Doctor, Patient's Choice Award in the United States. So you're a women's health expert. You're a wellness and intimate health specialist and a leader in the Vagina Revolution. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Sheryl Ross.
Thank you so much.
It's a mouthful, woman.
Yeah.
I really wanted to speak to Dr. Sheryl about, it's even hard for me to say, about menopause. I, like you, like to have all sorts of open conversations. As a hairdresser, I've heard about menopause since the beginning of my career. Like, I was in my 20s and I wasn't thinking about it, but I was hearing about it. And frankly, I didn't think I had to think about it for another 25 years. But now I know I was quite wrong, because perimenopause is something we should also be dealing with. So let's start with that. I mean, besides the fact that I want to get into how terrified I am of this transition in my life. Like, I'm literally terrified, Sheryl, and I don't think I'm alone. And I'm sure you have lots to say on that. But considering that we start to slow down the production of estrogen in our mid-30s, or God forbid, have cancer in breast cancer or ovarian cancer in our 20s and are thrown into menopause, waiting till you're 45 is too late, isn't it?
Well, 100%. I mean, the average age of menopause is 51, but up to 10 years before, so pretty much your 40s, are about perimenopause, premenopause. There's many different names for it. And what's so interesting is I think this is the group that gets the least attention, because you're like, something is wrong. I'm having hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, depression, anxiety, low sex drive, heart palpitations,
on and on and on.
Blah, blah, and your labs are normal. Your ovarian labs are normal. So the doctor's like, oh, you're good. You're good. Come back and see me when you don't have a period. So there's so much that we can start to do in our 40s, you know, just to make our lives better. And this is such an important message.
You know, I am guilty also of having some of these things happen and attributing them to different things. I mean, number one, there is no real test for menopause until you've stopped your periods, right? Because then that's when your levels change. Am I right about that?
Well, you can check a blood test called an FSH.
Hmm.
It's the precursor, the pre-hormone to estrogen, and those are the two things we check. We also check thyroid, but to know if your ovaries still got any oomph in them, it's checking the FSH because that will tell you how much ovarian reserve, how well your ovaries are still functioning. So that is a test you can do. But in perimenopause, that test will probably be normal.
Not to mention if you're on the birth control pill. You can't really
Well,
do that
yeah,
test, can you?
and no, you cannot do it. And that's a great, great question because so many women come in from other doctors having their FSH and estradiol checked, but they're on the pill. So that you can check it the pill-free week.
Oh.
So that, just so you know.
But
But
is
a
it
lot of
100% or is it just closer?
Well, no, it's definitely accurate. If you
Okay.
haven't been on the pill for, I usually say wait till the end of the week so you can at least have 3 to 4 days off hormones. And
Right.
yeah, it is pretty accurate.
Okay. So, and speaking of the FSH, I remember when I was trying to get pregnant and I got some help and I got 35 eggs. So I'm guessing
Wow.
that, and I just finished the pill. So if I were to have not been on the pill, I'm guessing that 35 eggs in 1 month would mean that I would have gone into menopause sooner than I probably would have. Am I right about that?
No, you're not.
Oh,
You're not. Because you have a lot of eggs, millions of
okay.
eggs. So, and if you had 35 eggs, I don't think many of them, I mean, I'm sure a handful would be really good,
Right.
but just because you have that many doesn't always mean they're great quality.
Right.
So it really depends. It can be confusing. It's a conversation, very important conversation.
Yeah. I didn't realize that every egg you had to leave and that's how you knew menopause was done. Like I thought that if you lost 35 eggs, that meant that was 35 periods you weren't going to get. That's
Oh
what I
yeah,
thought.
yeah. No,
No doctor.
your ovaries go down with many old eggs. They sink with the ship. So, you know,
That is, they sink with the ship is really the description of menopause that I think most of us have. I mean, I have spoken to women who have battled cancer, sick children, death of our parents, and honestly, Dr. Sherry, menopause seems to bring us to our knees.
yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, but it doesn't have to be.
Thank you.
This is the point. I think that, a few things. First of all, there's a lot of myths, a lot of bad info out there, a lot of misinformation. So women are confused. They're so confused. They feel very defeated. They don't feel like there's a way out. And so they just, kind of grin and bear it. So I think it's a really important conversation because there's things you can do starting in your 40s. And one is learning the information, becoming knowledgeable. Knowledge is power. I mean, it's such a cliche, but it is so true because one, in your 40s, you're not going to be denied. You know something's wrong.
Right.
Like women have to speak up because if you know something's wrong, that's step one because you can go to that doctor and you can be like, something is wrong here. I feel horrible. I'm tired. I don't want to have sex. And my vagina's dry. I can't sleep at night. My heart's racing. I'm having panic attacks, hot flashes. And then doctor's like, oh, no, you're good. Because, your hormones are normal.
Right.
But if you're not feeling well, then it's time to move on to another doctor. There's so many good ones out there.
Yeah.
So never take no for an answer if you don't feel well.
I think that's so hard for women to, number one, even wrap their head around. Like I said to you earlier, I'm guilty as well of having symptoms like when COVID started. I was home a lot and I've got a white floor in the kitchen and I started noticing a bunch of hair on the floor and I thought it was just because I was home a lot. Also, COVID happened when I was 54 and all of a sudden my collagen changed in my face and I thought, COVID is aging me, staying home is aging me, missing my work is aging me, the fear is aging me, I was really tired. I thought, I'm depressed because I'm not at work. And as in the last 2 weeks when I've been doing all of this research to have this conversation with you, no, I'm in menopause. Even though I'm on the pill, my body is saying there's an imbalance here. And all of a sudden, I'm realizing that it's so confusing because so many of the symptoms of menopause are also symptoms of living life in stressful ways. So how do we differentiate? How do we get women to identify that that's probably where it is and push even when the doctor says, no, you're fine?
Right. So it's a great question. I think the true sort of symptom of menopause is no period for 1 year. And not when you're 21,
Right.
but when you're 51 and you don't have a period for a year, and all of a sudden you're feeling symptoms that don't make a lot of sense.
Right.
And the classic ones, probably the top, are going to be hot flashes, night sweats, fatigue, memory fog, weight gain, bloating. These are going to be probably the most common that you're going to feel, and emotional symptoms too.
Anxiety.
And anxiety, depression, mood swings, you're just not going to feel right. And, those symptoms tend to really, absorb you completely and, it bring you down. So that's when you go to your doctor and you get your blood work tested. Hey, I don't have a period for a year. Something's not right. Mm-hmm. And then you can start with what can I do about it? But the first step is just to keep track. I'm a big journaler myself. Mm-hmm. So take notes, keep track. I happen to love these period apps. Have you ever used one?
Well, since you mentioned it when we spoke the first time, there are several of them, and I've actually been looking at all of them, and I just took a couple of tests about, are you depressed? Are you this? Are you that? And now every day it's asking me how many of these symptoms I've had, and it's making me much more sad when I'm doing it.
Yeah, but the good news is you're not going crazy. And there is an explanation. Your ovaries, they just stop producing estrogen. They've crossed the finish line and you're done.
You make it sound like they won the race, but if they win, that makes us the loser because estrogen affects every cell in your body, doesn't it?
Every cell. I mean, it affects so much. But there's a treatment remedy for each symptom. So, if you look at the no period usually is the easiest to be almost happy about, right? Because you don't get a period anymore. But hot flashes, most women, 75% of women can get hot flashes that really go on through the night. I mean, they're just sort of like this sudden burst of heat.
I hear they come from the inside like you're a volcano exploding, and they're like, I have seen so many women in my chair having them and turned on my cold blow dryer to help, and they're miserable.
It's a great idea. No, it's intense and it's crazy because it feels electric, and it's, your neck on up and your face, and you get really hot, and then it kind of makes you nervous too because it's very different than I'm hot.
Right. I say right like I've had one. I haven't, but I've been watching women have them for years.
Yeah, and it's, your heart rate increases and your pulse increases. So it's kind of scary too, I have to say. A lot of women are scared by it. Luckily, it only lasts 3 to 6 minutes, 3 to 7 minutes.
Only? If that lasted 6 minutes, I would lay down and cry every time it happened. Okay, so let's say I come to you and I'm in my 40s. I'm not stopping having my periods, but I'm not feeling right. And you're the person who will say to me, let's do all these tests. So I'm not at the wrong doctor. I'm at the right doctor. I'm still having my period. What are my choices before I go into menopause to ease some of the misery?
Yeah, so look, you can, if you don't want to talk about the medications, we always talk about lifestyle.
Right.
We talk about, eating healthy. You always want to try to eat a plant-based, Mediterranean style, high protein, low fat, low preservatives, not too much alcohol. Certain things are going to trigger hot flashes. Alcohol,
like
red wine, spicy foods is another. Things that are known typically to do that. But, you can dress in layers, you can use a fan. Things like exercising is very helpful for a lot of these symptoms. Even yoga, mindfulness, looking at ways to meditate and, really take control of your emotions and control of your body if you can. That doesn't always work. Right. Acupuncture works well too. Again, not for really bad, disruptive hot flashes or night sweats that keeps you up at night, but there are things that do help a little bit. There are herbs too. Mm-hmm. that work really well. I mean, you don't have to we're not talking about antidepressants yet or hormone replacement therapy, but passion flower extract is the greatest herb. It's actually
I don't know about that one. And I take a lot of herbs, but I don't know about that one.
Oh, yeah. Passion flower extract is one of those that actually has science behind it. Mm-hmm. It works really, really well for what we call these vasomotor symptoms. So hot flashes, night sweats, palpitations, and emotional calming and mood stability also. And a lot of good science. And again, breast cancer patients can also take it safely because things like black cohosh, they're not studied.
No.
You can't take anything that acts like an estrogen in your body. If you're high risk, breast cancer, blood clots, things that are concerning. But CHASTEBERRY, also known as VITEX, also is great for a lot of these symptoms. L-theanine is amino acid, ashwagandha, chromium, fenugreek. They're really helpful, and they tend to work, again, mainly for the mild symptoms, but just the ones that sort of can kind of get you
ruin
over
your day.
The edge.
Yeah,
maybe get you to work and so on is very important, and they do work.
I mean, I've had clients come to my chair and they're like, I'm sorry I'm late. I had to change my clothes 25 times because I couldn't stop sweating. And I remember when my water broke and I kept trying to change my underwear. My mother-in-law was like, forget it. So when do those women just say, I'm going to work sweaty, whatever? I'm just like, it must be miserable. But, you're mentioning all these herbs.
I'm all for experimenting and trying, but the ones that really have science behind it, that's sort of the doctor part of me.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is there's been some decent studies. Doctors are all about randomized, unbiased studies that look at women who have taken medications that actually, have a cause and effect. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these herbs have been well studied, not by big pharma, but they've shown a great benefit for a lot of the menopausal symptoms. So those are some of the things. And, we didn't talk about exercise as much, but exercise is really helpful emotionally, right? It gives you that confidence. It makes you feel really good. Those endorphins are going.
Right.
And it's really also helpful for sleep because sleep is so effective.
Paramount.
I mean, that's probably my biggest, problem is my sleep and what happens. And not necessarily because I'm up from hot flashes, but it's sort of this impact that sleep has, and when you don't get enough of it,
your whole day can be ruined.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of friends I know that if they wake up for any reason, if they just have to go pee, they just can't get back to sleep. And then of course you look at the clock and you think, oh, I've got 5 hours to sleep, I've got 4 hours to sleep, I've got 2, and then you're up all night anyway, watching the clock. So let's say that we're seeking the natural path and we're doing the herbs and that doesn't work, and then we go to a doctor and we decide to try some sort of hormone replacement therapy, whether it be plant-based or bioidentical or whatever. That might be the same thing. I'm no doctor, but can you take those herbs if you take that next step, or do some of those herbs mix with the other one in a bad way?
Yeah, so there's no studies, and I would not.
Right.
I would not. And usually they're prescription alternatives. These herbs are for those women. Now look, I mean, the best treatment for menopausal symptoms is going to be hormonal replacement therapy.
But we're also afraid of it.
Well, some of it's justified and most of it's not.
Right.
So there was a study that was done in the early 2000s. I think it was 2002. It was called the Nurses Study, and they looked at how safe estrogen really was and progesterone was for women, and they did thousands of women, and they kind of stopped the study midway to say, oh no, there's an increased risk of breast cancer, and in fact, what they found out years later was that in fact hormone replacement therapy was safe. Again, it's an individualized patient, looking at their risk factors for breast cancer. Of course, if you have breast cancer or you have strong breast cancer in your family, you may not want to take estrogen. And that's fair. That's fair because it does increase your risk slightly. Or if you have a blood clotting history, you cannot take estrogen or progesterone. So there are very true reasons you cannot. But for those that suffer, I mean, it's
A
life
lifesaver.
changing. I mean,
Yeah.
we're replacing what you're now not producing, and like estrogen is our superpower.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. When you take it away, it's horrible. So
You
it
know,
can be a lifesaver.
from what I've been reading, the entire body works synergistically as all of our organs make our hormones. And so if one stops, we're out of whack. And I think you've got to replace it with something. And I guess you can go the natural route. And if you're only having a small amount of symptoms or they're not terribly disruptive, that might work great for you. But the idea that there is so much misinformation out there, and then God forbid you go online and you try to WebMD yourself, you get even more afraid. And then one test study that says something about breast cancer and you turn it off and you think, I'm just going to suffer. And what kind of way is that to live? And not to mention that also estrogen helps with, it protects us from heart attacks and type 2 diabetes and all that other stuff, right?
Well, it's
No?
it's not necessarily. No,
Okay.
I mean, so heart disease, it's such a great topic because really, it's like 1 of 4 now women will die from heart disease, and it's around 50. This is the big game changer for us women. Where we're going to start to, see more high blood pressure, high cholesterol levels. Weight gain is a real issue. It really has nothing to do with hormone replacement therapy. A lot of women think, and this is a myth that I really love talking about, because women believe that hormone replacement therapy will make you fat. And it's absolutely wrong. Like, that's not the reason. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that we can gain weight.
Yeah.
But a lot of things are happening to our bodies, again, at around 50, with the decreased production of estrogen that lead to weight gain. I mean, and aging also
Right.
leads to weight gain. There's a lot of reasons that we can gain weight.
Get the menopause belly. That's what I'm like. I'm the girl who carries my weight in my butt and my thighs, and especially now, that's a good thing. But I've always had like a flat chest and a flat belly. I'm terrified to get a menopause belly. I mean, I don't know why I'm terrified, but after I just know that's going to be difficult to wrap my head around, having a totally different body. That, like, I'm always used to my pants getting kind of short if my thighs get too big. But if I can't close my pants, that's it's one thing if they're too short. But Dr. Shea, if I can't even close my pants, what am I going to do?
It's a problem. And the thing is we call it a menopause.
Oh, I've never heard
because
that.
we tend to gain weight in our, abdomen, our bellies, our buttocks and the thighs. And that's where we gain weight. I mean, that's just where women, it tends to go, and we all hate it, but it's just inevitable. But, with a decrease of estrogen, it affects our metabolism. So we're literally, it's slowing down. Sort of have to eat 200 to 300 calories less a
You
day.
just have to, right?
Just to maintain your weight.
Right.
So, and things that are happening sort of under our skin is, our lean muscle starts to turn into fat, and it's not pretty.
What?
But it's so not
sad.
pretty. It's really not. So it's tough. And all these are sort of happening at the same time, and just another way that women are. We're always struggling to work against some of the changes of aging, but you can. I mean, again, identifying all that's happening is the most important thing, so that you can understand it and know that, well, now I really have to pay more attention to my diet, because obesity is horrible, and it's
dangerous, incredibly dangerous.
We're seeing it more. That, of course, is going to lead to heart disease. It's going to lead to diabetes. It's going to lead to sort of high blood pressure, and so we have to pay attention, and we have to start doing it not when it happens. We have to start doing it in our 40s.
I was just going to say, or just if you're listening and you're 18, do it now. Make it a daily habit so that you don't have to have 40 years of never doing it and then try something that is so difficult to wrap your head around unless you've made it a daily practice. And it's like anything else. If you do it for 3 months, it becomes so much more of an easy habit to tackle, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, so let's just say I've tried all that stuff, and I've been on the pill forever, but I'm going to go natural because I've read all this stuff, and no matter what you tell me, I'm afraid of HRT. But it turns out 5 months in, I can't deal. I'm crying all the time. I'm yelling at my husband or my girlfriend or my boyfriend or whatever. I'm miserable. I'm hot. I'm stinky. Bad. And I come to you and I say, I don't care what it is. What are we going to do?
Yeah. So, I'm a big fan of hormone replacement therapy for just someone like you that's just, is so disrupted by the symptoms. They can't work. They can't, be nice to their partner, their kids. They're horrible. And I think quality of life, I always go back to that, is so important. So this is assuming, of course, NIKKI, you're getting your yearly mammograms, you're getting your breast exams, because that's important. I mean, there is a risk. If your risk is 1 in 1,000 to get breast cancer, and you start taking hormones for an extended period of time, your risk becomes now 2 in 1,000.
Right.
So it's not that big a risk when you think about your quality of life. So, I'm going to kind of walk you through the choices, and there's a patch version of estrogen, there's a cream version, and these are where I would start, because the oral version you want to really, that's one you want to try last, because you want it to bypass the liver. So we call it sort of the creams and the patches. They don't have to get metabolized through the liver, and that's just helpful. The less you put through that liver, the better and the safer it is.
Because it just makes the liver work too hard? I don't understand.
Yeah, and it just it's not having to process things through the liver is always better.
Okay.
And it just is effective. It's just going to be as effective also. So that's always a good thing. And estrogen, we just want to leave that liver to doing its own thing.
Right. And so what about the absorption rate? Because, I mean, how do you figure out how much to do for people? Because I've always heard that, like, you start with this much and it might be. So how do you know if it's working? And if there,
because you're going to feel better. You're going to know because you're going to feel better.
Or you're not.
So, yeah. And if you have a uterus, you're going to get progesterone, which protects the uterus. So if you never want to take estrogen alone if you're in menopause and you have a uterus. If you have a uterus, it will stimulate that uterus and increase your risk of uterine cancer if you're not taking progesterone. So you always want to take them together. And actually progesterone, the good thing, it will help you sleep at night.
Right.
So it's good to take if you can. At nighttime, of course. So you're taking your patch, you're changing the estrogen patch. Now, what dose to give you, that can be negotiated as well. It's like anything. These doses have been studied. There's sort of the average dose, and it's going to take about 3 to 4 weeks so you feel better. But I've had people write me thank you notes, send me flowers, a month, 2 months, 3 months into it, their life is back to normal. And that's, again, quality of life is so important. I mean, you don't have to suffer. And we're not even talking about, 4 or 5 years into menopause, the vaginal dryness is a game changer.
And I want to talk about that because I think people think that once they get past that year and a month, that menopause is over. But if you have stopped making estrogen, it's never over. Your life is now completely affected hormonally. And as you said, vaginal atrophy and dryness. And I know, and I didn't mention this because I knew we were going to get to it, you have an intimate skincare line that addresses a lot of this. And I want to remember to go back to this because so many things are available on the market that you could just buy, LED lights and things.
You have to do your research. You have to, you don't want to buy something that may not work or may cost a lot of money, and you may think it's going to work and then you feel disappointed if it doesn't. Because there are things that, can be very helpful. Now, vaginal dryness.
That just does not sound good.
Oh, man. It's the worst. I mean, it's definitely one of the things that women, it always brings back the conversation of menopause because, 2-3 years out, you're like, oh, I dealt with the hot flashes. I'm good. I can sleep better now. But the vaginal dryness and lack of lubrication with intimacy is such a game changer. So it's kind of happens 2 or 3, 4 years later. The tissue gets very dehydrated, right? That beautiful pink elastic tissue is gone. And it's replaced by sort of dry and thinned out pale tissue. And
Painful tissue is what I've heard.
yeah, exactly. Because, you can't have sex if you don't have any, lubricant, and it's less blood flow to that whole area, the vulva, the clitoris. So it's harder to have an orgasm, and it's just less of your own natural lubrication. So it's called, there's a few different names for it. Vulva vaginal atrophy is one of the terms. Genital urinary syndrome is the newer version, and basically that just means dry vagina and bladder function is affected.
Oh my God. Let me tell you something. I'm still fine with the bladder thing until I see the toilet. And then the dance I do to get my underwear off, and I almost sent you a picture the other day of my underwear when I was right there, and then I just missed it by like a second, and I wanted to send you
could have.
Spot.
I get pictures all the time. But again, you don't have to suffer. You just don't have to suffer. And one of the things that I think is so important, and you mentioned my intimate skincare line, and the reason I would like to save the vulva and vagina at an earlier age, not even in your 40s, but in your 20s, is to prevent dryness of the vulva, the vagina inside, and to moisturize the vulva and vagina like we do our face every day, because that's the most delicate and sensitive area of our body, just like our face. You're not going to use the same bar of soap to clean under your arm and your back end and your face. Well, you shouldn't do that with your vulva either.
Right.
You don't want to put anything into the vagina to cleanse, because that's like douching, and we know you're going to kill 30 or so of those great, sort of cleansing bacteria that keep the vagina clean. It's like the tears in our eyes, the vaginal discharge we have every day. Sometimes during the menstrual cycle, you'll see it more than others, but that's the same cleaning mechanism. But the outside, ladies,
you got to wash it.
I don't know. I mean, I see women even today, like,
oh, I'm sorry to see that.
No, but it's our fault, because again, we're not educating women to learn to clean and really take care of this area. So, if you get,
I don't understand that. Why isn't that just inbred in you? That I don't understand why that's not
I'll tell you what my theory. I mean, look, my first book came out in 2017, no one was saying the word vagina. Look, we have code names, right? Harry Potter, Tunnel of Love, Easy Bake Oven, Pink Taco, Flapjacks, right? There's a ton of them, right? What'd you call yours?
A vagina. Okay, I had that, Mom.
Okay, yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, this is what I was seeing in 2017, and then when my She-quel came out, a lot had happened politically, Time's Up, Me Too, racial reckoning, and women were, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And all of a sudden the vagina just kind of came along.
Our big cape.
So now we're talking about it. Yeah. Now we're like, okay, well, now we're talking about the vulva and vagina. How do we take care of it? So I'm very happy about that conversation, because it's so important. And it's happening. It's really happening in a very kind of natural and authentic way. So why weren't we taking care of it? Well, we weren't even talking about it first. So it was hard to ask your mom, do I clean my vagina? And we weren't separating out the vulva.
Right. I think a lot of people don't know that their vulva is not really their vagina.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was just one big
vagina.
One big box, literally.
One big hot pocket, one big pink taco.
So now we're separating it out. We're really, and I think you have to, because just say for the same reason why you shouldn't douche, right? Douching, why would you douche to make your vagina smell like Maui? Why do that? If you're cleaning out all the good foot soldiers that keep the vaginal microbiome in good standing. So you never want to douche ever. Well, actually, if you leave a tampon, you lose a tampon. We call it a lost tampon if it's been in there for more than a few days and you can't
I, by
find
the
it.
way, have fished out a tampon for somebody because I was sleeping at a dorm, a friend of mine who was drunk and had sex with some guy she didn't know, came in, didn't feel good, remembered that she had a tampon and couldn't find it, and she wanted to go to the emergency hospital. And I was like, oh my God, what are you, 5 inches deep? Get in there and get it out. I can't. And I was like, lay down. She was mortified. I was like, you are an idiot. I mean, how hard can this be?
You're a good friend.
Well, but I was raised in that kind of family where like your vagina and your elbow were as important to talk about.
Good for you.
That's not a great example because who talks about elbows, but you know what I mean.
That's great though. Listen, I think it's great, and I agree with you. I mean, it's just part of to take out the shame and the embarrassment. Any which way we can do it. So
Yeah.
it's important conversation.
So, earlier you said that estrogen was our superpower, but I have to tell you that I feel like because I've been lucky enough to have been comfortable with my vagina, getting to know my vagina, never having to have a code name for it or not say it or whisper the word, that my superpower has been how comfortable I am with my vagina. Knowing, I mean, not that I've always known how to use it and what to do, but I've certainly grown to adore it a lot more being married and having a partner who adores it and has taught me to like it even better. You know what I mean? And I think that that's my superpower. And I never considered, since I don't show it to everybody, treating it with the loving care that I do my face. And so with your skincare line that has, I think the main thing is extra virgin olive oil, which I've already got upstairs since I've talked to you. Yeah. And lubricating it and washing it properly. So tell me a little bit about your line and how that helps women 5 years past menopause to begin to heal.
Yeah, so URJA, URJA Intimates, was really born out of a conversation I had. I mean, all good conversations, right, are in stirrups for me. Just like
I think my husband would agree with you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. They should like be in everyone's living room. So it's like this patient of mine, she was excited to share with me this skincare line that she and her aunt of 30 years in skincare were coming out with a clean beauty skincare product for the face. And she was telling me hyaluronic acid and bakuchi oil and willow bark and vitamin C and things that are natural salicylic acids, natural retinols for the skin and face, and CBD. And I knew CBD had some analgesic properties and other things. I mean, not with THC, but CBD. But it also is antioxidant and anti-inflammatory for the skin. So I said, God, this is exactly the kind of skincare line that I want to make for the vulva and vagina. But I would add extra virgin coconut oil. And literally 7 months later, URJA Intimates was born. And so we have the silky serum, which is really the kind of one of my favorites because it's a moisturizer for the vulva, and it feels so good. It smells really good. It gets the red out immediately. Like I take before and after photos all the time, in general, because I like to show women if it's a sore, it's a lesion, ingrown hair, but skin dryness is so common. Like all the feminine hygiene we're doing, the waxing, the shaving, the soul cycle, exercising, just anything, sweat.
Right. No, I didn't even mean that. I meant the bike riding and the working out, just pounding that thing all day long.
Right. So, and sweat glands, hair follicles being so close to the anus. I mean, it takes a beating. So it's very prone to dryness. And, I hope women never are wearing a mini pad all day long to catch whatever discharge that's normal. They don't want to soil their panties because those are the things, special soaps from, your Paris and, things that have fragrance can be very harsh on the skin.
Right.
And we don't
that dries it all out.
Totally. We don't even think about it. So dryness and, speaking of menopause, perimenopause, less blood flow to this area makes orgasms harder too.
It's all about that.
Well, it is, right? I mean, you want to make
Yeah.
sure you're having good orgasms, but the dryness is a common problem, and dryness leads to itching. And I see it a lot because and women think itch, oh, I must have yeast. They're going to CVS or buying things they don't need. Almost like half of the time, women that go to CVS to treat a yeast infection, it's not yeast. So
Just dry.
if we can do things in our 20s, we're using special soap. So URJA Intimates, there's a personal wash that is so awesome. It's just made for the vagina, the vulva, and the silky serum, which is the moisturizer. And then we have a great lubricant, which is extra virgin coconut oil and CBD. So I would tell women just to get that coconut oil for sex, and both partners loved it. It feels so nice. It's so great. It's also you can't use it with condoms, but it's very good as a antifungal as well. It has some antifungal properties. So it's fantastic. And we put some CBD in it, and it's just really a great lube. So those are the first 3 that we have launched, and we're very excited about women using them. And it's just, as soon as you start thinking about taking care of the vulva, like your face, and using special products, it makes a lot of sense.
It makes total sense. So does lube fix that problem? Or, like, I understand that there's the Mona Lisa and the Emcella chair that are supposed to strengthen, and you can break down the collagen and rebuild more. So when you're in that state where you're vaginal atrophy, vaginal dryness, is it as simple as lube? Or do we need to really look into having other treatments?
Well, so lube is like a Band-Aid, right? Lube's for sex, and it feels good, and it definitely helps. But if you are moisturizing the inside of the vagina with hyaluronic acid, we haven't really talked about how to hydrate inside. The outside, we got that covered. If you're getting my silky serum on URJA, URJA Beauty, my site, but
you can go to Dr. Shery's website, and there's a link for it there.
Yes,
so just if you're looking for it and you can't remember the URJA, Dr. Shery Ross, and you'll find it.
You'll find it. And if you put in Dr. Shery 20, you get 20% off.
Oh, I will do that tonight.
Dr. Shery 20.
Dr. Shery 20 for
on the code, why not? But anyway, it's inside is a whole different conversation. So to your point, Nikki, you're talking about the Mona Lisa, which I actually love it. I think it's the dermabrasion for inside the vulva, inside the vagina, like your face again.
So we're just trying to learn how to treat our vaginas like we do our face.
Kind of.
Okay.
But it takes off the dead cell layer, and it stimulates blood flow and collagen. So it's very good. But you have to do a lot. Like if you are using hyaluronic acid inside the vagina, and you really don't have to start that until somewhere in your early 40s, when the changes of the ovaries not producing estrogen regularly puts you into perimenopause. So the vaginal dryness, low libido, it all starts to happen in that decade. But if you're putting in hyaluronic acid every 3 nights in a little ovule, it's like a little almond, and you put it inside, it's melting at night, a little drippy in the morning, but it's not like you're leaking all day. It's fantastic. I mean, that's one way to hydrate inside.
That's a prescription, right?
It's over the counter.
Oh, okay.
And there's a few different brands that I like. There's one online called REPAGYN, and you can get it on Amazon. And it's very inexpensive. It's just hyaluronic acid. We know it's hyaluronic acid for our face, right? It's hydrating
and plumping.
So if you're plumping, and if you're inserting that every 3 nights, that's how you moisturize. With sex, you're going to get a good lube, and there's a few different ones. I mean, I love mine because it's simple. Yeah. Extra virgin coconut, and I love the CBD because it has that analgesic, sort of that feel goodness about it, and warming quality. So it's kind of fun.
Doesn't that sound nice, girls?
It's great. Yeah. It's great for masturbation too. I mean, it really feels nice. So I think it's good to use it. And so this is just what you have to create a feminine hygiene and self-care for the vulva and vagina. Exactly.
Okay, so we're taking care of this, and and the dryness and all that stuff if we can talk about it. So let's say that we're in a love affair with somebody and only one of us is experiencing this. And, you know, I'm as open as I am. I still feel a little shame around it. I'm not embarrassed to talk to Randy about it, but it doesn't, I can't even say it. Like, I'm scared of it. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that it tears love affairs apart, not only because of how we feel and how we lose our confidence and how we feel less than in every way, but what about them feeling guilty about, you know, are you okay tonight? Can we do it tonight? And then they don't want to pressure you and they're afraid they're going to hurt. So what do you tell people who come in and we're just terrified that our whole love affair is going to fall apart because of this?
Well, look, I mean, they're going through menopause if you're with a male partner. It's certainly easier if you're with a woman who's same age, who's you're going through it together.
But if she's younger, then she doesn't know either. So it could be anybody that you're with.
Right. It's communication.
Yeah.
I mean, communication is so important. I think none of us really like to talk about aging, whether our ovaries are shut down for having babies or we're going into menopause. I mean, that's just another sign of growing older, and society has done a number on that. But, you know, it's all about peace of mind, and it's all about your confidence.
Yeah. Aging
can be fun. I mean, aging, you know, we're such better versions of ourselves when we age, I think. And it's important just to take it head on. You know, society is really changing. I mean, we are not letting men sort of put us down. We're embracing getting older. Women are, you know, in the boardrooms now. We're running companies. I mean, those days are over.
Right.
And yeah, by the way, you know, we go through menopause. Men, they start losing their testosterone around the same time we start going through menopause.
But they don't see now. That's a whole different lack of communication. Men, you can bet your ass that at a business lunch, those guys aren't talking about what's happening to their balls or menopause, and so. So it's not as made fun of, and it's not like we all talk about it when we're, but they don't talk about that. So it's like, and you know, you mentioned how getting older is so good for so much of our self-confidence and stuff. And I've embraced all of it. Like, I even liked the first wrinkle I got. I thought that was kind of sexy that I earned that, and what I've learned, and how much better sex has gotten, and how much more in touch with every part of my body I am. But even saying that I'm starting hormones, and it feels so yucky. And
well, it's all how you bring it to the table. I mean, you know, I think it's in our mannerism, it's in our tone, it's growing old with someone that you love, and you hope that they love you even more for being honest. And I think it takes a lot of pressure off them, because it's not about them.
Right.
Like your body is going through things, and God, having a harder time, you know, having an orgasm. Well, guess what? You know, here's a vibrator. I might even have one right here. You know, it's sort of like, now's the time.
If you don't have one there, I have some close by.
I must have some. I got a uterus. But you know, it's true that, you know, I think it takes pressure off them, because you're like, you know, hey, my hormones are changing, and you know, I'm a little more drier, so let's use this new lube. Or, you know, I'm having a hard time having an orgasm. Look, here's a new vibrator, and you're bringing stuff into the bedroom, and it's kind of fun, and it's creative, and it just, I think it's just how you present it. You know, you don't want it to. It's not over at all. It's just, you need to pivot. You need to reset. You need to do a reset on what to make it, you know, how you can still enjoy, you know, loving your partner, pleasing yourself, and doing it in menopause. And there's no problem there. You just you have new tools in the toolbox, and that's really what it's about.
Well, like you said, the communication and the ownership of it, which also gives you power in the bedroom. And also, we sometimes get stuck in a rut anyway. So if things are changing and you add things to the mix of it all, well, then it also becomes exciting while you're fixing a problem, which is a good thing too. And so, but the idea that I'm doing this is because I want to feel good about it. And I want to show women that I want women to look at me and know that I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this in front of you, and I'm going to share this with you. And so I think it's important for us all. So many women just don't talk about it enough. So ladies, after you hear this podcast, if there's anything you didn't know, call a friend and tell her, share it with her, tell her to go onto Dr. Shery's website, read her books, because it is so empowering to embrace and lean into this part of our journey. And
100%.
you know, there's so much information out there, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And like you said, Dr. Shery, if your doctor isn't listening to you, you must be proactive. And if you don't have the doctor that is responding to your questions and proactive behavior and your anger or your whatever, find another doctor, because they're out there, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, the low libido is such a big issue. You know, it affects millions of women. If 64 million women are in menopause every year, we're all going through a lot of the same things, but low libido is a big one. And, you know, there's not a lot of you know, there's certainly not like erectile dysfunction, not the same FDA approved pills. Addyi is one that is FDA approved. And it's known to sort of help libido, and you might want to talk to your doctor about it. You want to make sure you have tools in your toolbox, your menopause toolbox now, that involves a good lubricant, a good moisturizer that you're using all the time. You might even want to use estrogen. Vaginal estrogen can work really well too.
Is that over the counter also?
No, that's a prescription.
Okay. That's what I thought.
But some people just use that alone, you know, 3 or 4 times, well, let's say twice a week on the minimum, half a little applicator, quarter applicator you insert into the back of the vagina. It's another thing you can do safely. It's not going to increase your risk of breast cancer, but it's going to hydrate. It's going to water the grass. And it's just important that you get in that mindset. And talk to your doctor about some of these other, you know, potential prescriptions like Addyi that might also help with your libido.
So why does estrogen, that can be a threat to some people, if you insert it in the vagina, why is that not dangerous?
Well, it's all about what gets into your blood, you know, your blood system. And there's such a little amount in the vagina. I mean,
right.
That's why the studies of vaginal estrogen show there's no increased risk of blood clots or of breast cancer.
Yeah, because the amount in a pill versus the amount that you're putting in is a whole different thing.
Whole different thing.
Okay, I want to make sure that I didn't miss any of the questions, because I had about 900. I think we only did about 810. But is there anything that I missed asking you about that you want to make sure that we talk about?
I think we hit them. You know,
Yeah.
I think we pretty much hit a lot of it, actually. I thought it was really great.
Yeah. So again, ladies, the reason I'm doing this, and I would love to, Dr. Shery, maybe talk to you again about it, because I would imagine this will instigate some questions from people that I didn't ask, or that they just wish I had asked, or whatever. But maybe I can just have another conversation with you, or maybe when I'm further into it, to share my experience, and you can talk about what I'm doing with other people, because
Definitely.
like you, conversations matter. And if you can't have them, I know that listening to them helps. And so if you can hear us, ladies, and you can't say the word vagina, but you can hear it, and you can't ask for help with menopause, but you can hear some of Dr. Shery's things, and then maybe you can write her an email, and then she can link you to the right doctor or something. Help is out there, and we shouldn't have to struggle. I am so afraid of it, but because I have spoken to so many people, I know that I'm not going to get lost in it. And if I know that, and I'm afraid of a lot of stuff, if I can do it, you guys can do it.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, no, you're doing such great work, because this is, I love the menopause, perimenopause conversation. It is not a monster. It is not a beast that we have to really take it by the horns and just not let it destroy us, because there's so many easy ways to treat common symptoms.
And the best thing about what I got from most of our conversation, I think, is how the idea that I worry about my husband worrying about me, and about me being bitchy, and about me. I mean, I've heard so many terrible stories about how people treat their lovers. And the idea that as things change with my vagina, if things become uncomfortable and I haven't yet tackled in order to fix it, or I'm working on it, but it's not there yet, the idea that the conversation in the bedroom could open the door for new toys
Yeah.
or new ways or a better way to get
Totally.
me off or something, which just in the end makes, number one, having sex with the same person for 38 or 50 years even better. And
Absolutely.
makes you more powerful because maybe you're not the one who's always starting it, but now you have to say something, which I think everybody wants to hear from their partner. So I'm going to try to lean in a little more because of this conversation with you. And I'm going to try to be more embracing of this part of it as an opportunity to, I don't know, just accept another part of
Yeah.
myself and grow with it.
And just remember that menopause is a very individualized process. And what happens with you may not have happened to me or Nikki or to your girlfriends next door. So if anything becomes disruptive, you really have to not let it affect your, quality of life. Like that's what it's about. Get your mammograms. If you need to go on hormone replacement therapy, go for it. I mean, women love it. They love it. If it's given to you in the proper amount and the proper doses, make sure you're going to the right doctor, of course. Maybe get a second opinion if you're confused. But quality of life is what it's all about.
And it's available.
Totally available.
That's the thing. Okay, Dr. Shery, I think we've nailed a great part of this. And of course, the conversation is never ending. And I would love to at some point be able to call you back and just say, hey, are you free next week? Can we do this again?
Anytime, Nikki.
I would love that.
Thanks
Please
for having
don't,
me.
Yeah, don't hang up right away because I just want to say goodbye and
Okay.
thank you. But I want to let our audience go. And you guys, I will link all of the things she said and her website so that you can go there and find out more. And I'll make sure that in case there's something you missed, you don't have to rewind it and try to find it again. It will all be linked below. Dr. Shery, thank you so much for all that you know and for how much you love women.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Nikki.
Oh, thank you so much.